Thank you for joining us tonight. You're now with me, Shorshamina for TVS Nightline. We begin with the headlines tonight. The government are in search of the best solution to cushion the economic impact that have affected the people's livelihood. Amongst the solutions are to improve the purchasing power of consumers and reaffirming the private sector as an important driving force for economic development.
Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the government had to learn new things every day, not just to tackle the pandemic, but also to find the best ways to cushion its economic impact on the country, which had also affected the people's livelihood.
Saya menginsafi kepayahan, kesengsaraan dan keperitan hidup rakyat ketika negara sedang menghadapi krisis ekonomi yang berpunca daripada wabak ini.
In addition, the pandemic had impacted various sectors and industries, with the small and medium-scale businesses being the most affected.
Several initiatives under the Malaysian Family Welfare Agenda on housing were announced today. This was to ease the stress and burden of recipients of Rumah Ikram Keluarga Malaysia, as the recipients would also enjoy rental exemption of up to 6 months, beginning from the date of handing over of keys for their units. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob announced that the number of units under the project had been doubled to 2,000 from the initial 1,000, enabling it to benefit some 10,000 needy occupants.
Oleh sebab itu, langkah dan pendekatan yang diperkenalkan oleh KPKT melalui inisiatif kediaman keluarga Malaysia atau Rumah Ikram Keluarga Malaysia merupakan satu inisiatif yang tepat pada masanya dan merupakan langkah penampan yang boleh kerajaan berikan kepada rakyat yang memerlukan.
Rumah Ikram Keluarga Malaysia will provide shelter to groups who have lost their sources of income or whose incomes have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic to the extent of being unable to pay higher rentals for houses.
Pengecualian bayaran sewa ini akan ditanggung oleh kerajaan yang melibatkan peruntukan kira-kira 3 juta ringgit.
Sarawak will look to further expand studies of astronomy to stimulate educational, technological and socio-economic development. This was according to Chief Minister Datuk Patinggi Abang Johari Tun Openg.
Jadi bidang astronomi adalah satu bidang yang sangat penting dalam kita melihat apa yang ada di dunia ini. Sebabnya nama ilmu orang Arab yang pakar dalam astronomi Al-Khawarizmiyah. Jadi ini menjadi satu bidang yang penting dalam manusia menghayati apa yang diwujudkan oleh Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Kira itu dah ada space tourism yang memberikan satu gambaran bahawa manusia hendaklah mengkaji apa yang ada di langit dan di bumi, termasuklah space development.
Abang Johari also added that the field of knowledge was important as it was closely related to information technology and communication. Therefore, the Miri Astronomy Centre, with 4.5 million ringgit completed on July 13 this year, would be open to university students to do research related to astronomy. The centre, which is used by the Sarawak Mufti Department's JMNS Astronomy Division for Ruqyah and preparation of prayer times, could also be utilised for observing natural phenomena such as solar and lunar eclipses, as well as climate change studies, in which the knowledge explored can predict possible disasters such as floods by making calculations with regards to the movement of the moon and stars. Meanwhile, the Royal Malaysia Police PDRM has proposed that the government limit the issuance of motor vehicle licenses (LKM) to senior citizens. Director of the Bukit Aman Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Department, Dato' Azizman Alias, stated his concern that the health of senior citizens could be a major factor that contributed to road accidents.
Azizman also added that seniors need to undergo medical examination and obtain doctor's approval to drive. According to him, health conditions that often emerge among senior citizens, such as Alzheimer and blurred vision, is a clear sign that a driver should not drive. Such health problems could not only cause harm to the driver, but also to other road users. Azizman advised that it would be unsuitable for a senior citizen over the age of 70 to renew their driver's license for a 5-year period due to the age factor. He also suggested to the government to issue a policy for low-powered motorcycles to not make excessive noise, as many motorcycle owners was caught altering their exhaust without following the allowed specifications.
And educational institutions under the Ministry of Education (MOE) in states that have moved to the next phase of the National Recovery Plan will operate 2 weeks after the transition takes place. This applies to states such as Johor, Pahang and Negeri Sembilan, which moved to the next phase of PPN today.
Meanwhile, the statement said the National Security Council had allowed Form 6 Semester 2 students and IGCSE O-level students in states that are still under Phase 1 of PPN to attend schools without rotation, in which the operation of educational institutions involving this group of students in Kedah will begin in October 10, while other students will continue with home-based teaching and learning. Educational institutions in Langkawi will resume operations based on Phase 4 regulations on October 3, following the announcement of the island as a destination of the Tourism Bubble pilot project. MOE said educational institutions in states that are not involved in the phase transition will operate based on regulations announced on September 12. The ruling also applies to all educational institutions that are not registered with the MOE, including those under state governments.
Following the announcement from the Ministry of Transport on the feasible study of adopting the latest technologies such as sensors and security cameras into cars used for driving tests, its Minister Dr. Wee Ka Siong made the announcement in Parliament, saying that the move aims to enhance the system in terms of accuracy and promote transparency, as well as further cultivating the sense of integrity among officers and personnel of the Road Transport Department. Hence, following the announcement, however, received a rather mixed emotions from members of the public.
Wong Jin Sen, a fresh graduate, applauded the initiative taken by the ministry as it will ensure a fair chance for all individuals regardless of their status and background.
Well, I think it is about time that our government puts in some effort to address the flaws in our driving test systems, where bribery is such a common practice. I think people who cannot drive should not be given their driver's license just because of the fact that they pay more than what they should be paying. In my opinion, I think they should have thought of this and implemented this long ago, because this can help improve our driving test system into a more matured one.
Commenting further, Wong said with the adoption of technologies, the footage from the cameras could be viewed to solve any dispute or allegation of corruption in the testing process.
Every test process or session will be transparent to show the people the integrity of the officers to avoid corruption in their part, where the authorities can oversee the footage or evidence to prove whether the candidates they actually fail or pass their driving tests.
Meanwhile, Koo Zin Hung is of the opinion that by depending on technology instead of manpower, it will help to minimize the misuse of power in any way.
Well, I believe that this also can help to stop the corruption, due to we will be more depends on the technology instead of manpower.
However, she added the move will not completely wipe out corruption, but merely a step to decrease it.
For me, I believe that it won't be a very perfect method to stop any form of corruption or power or abuse, but it will be the best choice to reduce this to happen, because this technology will help us to give them some difficulties, even they try to corrupt.
On the other hand, Sherry Linda said the ministry should utilize more funds into employing more enforcement officers instead of adapting it into digital technologies.
Instead of spending money on these sensors and security cameras inside the testing vehicle, why don't we spend it on the enforcement? Either we pay people, to regulate the laws, to ensure that all road users follow the road safety rules. And we can also implement demerit system points, whereby if a year a person who have break safety rules, they will accumulate demerit points, which leads them to either pay higher license renewal fee, or they may have to sit for refresher course on road safety.
我是 Christy，
我是 Bryce，
跟我们一起与不同的厨师学习如何烹饪多元种族的美味健康佳肴。
从菜巴萨到餐桌前，在这一集中，我们将与厨师应庆一起烹饪美味佳肴，千万别错过哟！
Songket adalah merupakan keutamaan yang telah diberikan oleh kerajaan negeri memartabatkan seni tekstil di Sarawak.
Manik adalah satu bahan pusaka, jadi keluarganya di dunia rohani itu nanti akan mengenal pasti roh yang datang itu adalah dari sanak saudara dia. Tatu di leher di kalangan masyarakat lelaki Iban itu diibaratkan sebagai simbol keberaniannya dalam peperangan ataupun simbol kelakiannya dalam masyarakat.
Asajaya sebenarnya pernah dikenali sebagai nono pada masa lalu. Sektor ekonomi utama merupakan pertanian sehingga menjadikannya salah satu taman kekal pengeluaran makanan. Kawasan ini mempunyai lebih kurang 34,000 orang penduduk. 83% penduduknya merupakan kaum Melayu, manakala 9% kaum Iban dan selebihnya kaum Bidayuh, Cina dan lain-lain. Asajaya sememangnya mempunyai tarikan tersendiri seperti pesta ambal, iaitu sejenis makanan laut terkenal yang boleh menjadi produk ikon yang menarik orang luar untuk berkunjung ke daerah ini. Kerajaan Sarawak meluluskan peruntukan sebanyak 28 juta ringgit untuk membangunkan pasar baharu dan tebingan Kampung Tambirat sebagai pusat sehenti bagi orang ramai untuk mendapatkan barangan keperluan sambil beriadah.
Welcome back to the Nightline with the COVID-19 development. Sarawak today recorded 2,825 new cases, placing the state at the top of the list among states and territories in the country. To date, Malaysia has reported 2,171,232 cases. Selangor came in second on the infections table today with 2,244 cases, followed by Johor with 1,807, Sabah with 1,273, Penang 1,231 and Perak with 1,144. Other states and territories that reported three-digit cases were Kelantan, Kedah, Terengganu, Pahang, Melaka, Kuala Lumpur and Negeri Sembilan. On the other hand, the interval period between first and second doses for the ASTRAZENECA vaccine will be reduced to 6 weeks beginning October 1. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said it aims to facilitate the recipients of ASTRAZENECA vaccine doses.
Mula daripada 1 hari bulan Oktober, ini adalah untuk memudahkan dan memberi kemudahan kepada mereka yang telah mendapat dos pertama vaksin AstraZeneca. Kita akan memendekkan jarak masa antara dos pertama dan kedua bagi vaksin AstraZeneca daripada 9 minggu kepada 6 minggu, dan mereka boleh menerima dos yang kedua selepas 6 minggu.
Prior to this, the second dose of AstraZeneca vaccine was given after 12 weeks before it was being shortened to 9 weeks last July. Meanwhile, in regards to the difference between the third dose and the booster dose, Khairi said the third dose will be given to those who lack immunity to fight the virus.
Dos ketiga diberikan kepada mereka yang mana respons sistem imun mereka terhadap 2 dos tidak mencukupi dan memerlukan dos yang ketiga untuk respons sistem imun yang optimum terhadap ataupun untuk melawan COVID-19. Dos penggalak adalah bagi mereka yang mana 2 dos sudah cukup dari segi respons imun, tetapi dalam beberapa bulan respons imun itu sudah mula turun. Dan dos penggalak itu akan diberi sebagai perangsang kepada sistem imun supaya ia lebih berkesan terhadap COVID-19.
Both doses will be implemented once MOH received clinical views and guidelines from experts and NPRA registration. As of now, Pfizer company has sent the third dose to NPRA and is awaiting approval. Meanwhile, the number of COVID-19 patients in need of respiratory assistance in Malaysia shows a decreasing trend since August 9. According to data through the COVID Now portal, the overall rate of respiratory aid used nationwide is 49.9%. Based on the rate of use of respiratory aid by state, Kedah recorded 74.5%, which is the highest, followed by Penang with 74.4% and Perak with 71.4%. Meanwhile, ward use in the intensive care unit (ICU) recorded a rate of 75.9%. With Penang recorded the highest ICU usage rate of 99.2%, followed by Kedah with 97.5%, Putrajaya with 90%, Johor with 87.3%, Sarawak 87.1%, and Perak at 83.1%. Vaccination centres (PPV), district health offices (PKD), and district education offices (PPD) involved in implementation of the vaccination program for adolescents are reminded not to issue different sets of instructions and standard operating procedures (SOPs). This is in a bid to avoid any clusters of COVID-19 cases. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin also urged parents or guardians to bring their teenage children to the PPV according to the scheduled date and time. The scheduled vaccination is being implemented to prevent congestion and a cluster of COVID-19 cases. Khairi also advised parents not to rush their children to the PPV as the appointments for the adolescent immunization program were made with the cooperation of the PKD and PPD in advance. Following the announcement of the reopening of educational institutions in the country, but despite the excitement, certain measures should be taken. As such, school administrators have been advised to cut back on the use of air conditioning in order to improve the circulation of fresh air. Deputy Education Minister Dr. Ma Hang Soon said the recommended range of temperature within school buildings was from 23 to 26 degrees Celsius if all air conditioners are being switched on. He also advised to cut down on the use of aircon and to avoid temperatures which are too cold, as the top priority is air circulation. Dr. Ma added that the ministry has embarked on visits to ensure that all schools and educational institutions install a healthy indoor system of air circulation to keep COVID-19 at bay in preparations for the reopening of schools. In any event, he said no undue reports have been received regarding poor air circulation in schools and all has been satisfactory so far. The Sarawak Congress of Unions of Employees in the Public Services, or QPACs, made a public proposal to prompt the government to review East Malaysia's cost of living allowance or cost of living allowance given to civil servants. For context, West Malaysia was given a 50 ringgit increment, while it has yet to be implemented for civil servants in both Sarawak and Sabah. Sarawak QPAC's chairman Omar Barin Unin said the 50 ringgit allowance increment has been implemented in West Malaysia since January 2020. In both Sabah and Sarawak, civil servants have only received the regional allowance included in their payroll, a rather outdated policy since it was implemented in 1988. At the same time, Omar also requested the authority to implement policies it has previously announced, such as yearly increment for all civil servants, establishing the DG 56 grade for teachers and a time-based promotion, among others. Omar expressed concerns on the government's financial burden due to the pandemic. However, by implementing the increment of COLA in both Sarawak and Sabah, it will strengthen the buying power for those in Category B40 and M40 who are the most affected by the pandemic.
Okay, what's the problem? I always go back at 10. I cannot do this anymore.
I'm traumatized from all this sexual harassment at work. I can't even sleep.
I was asked to lead this team, but why they don't trust me? Let's discuss. Join me at H Capital with Balkis every Thursday 9 p.m. at TVS Channel 122, Astro and My TV.
Karaket terjumpa rueng yang menyerupai kawannya. Kemesraan Karaket bersama rueng menyebabkan Dek berasa cemburu. Adakah hubungan Karaket dan Dek akan terjejas? Saksikan Love Destiny Isnin hingga Jumaat 6.15 petang hanya di TVS saluran 122 Astro dan My TV.
Pada kepercayaan saya, selagi kita tidak putus asa, kita akan berjaya satu hari nanti. Perjalanan mesti diteruskan. Mata tetap pandang ke hadapan, matahari tetap terbit dan terbenam, walau apa jua yang berlaku. Saya berharap Sarawak boleh melahirkan lebih banyak atlet yang bertaraf dunia. Agi hidup, agi ngelaban.
And now on to the next highlight. Today was a monumental day for Sarawak's famous dish, Laksa Sarawak. It was crowned the best dish in Asia by world's first interactive food map, TasteAtlas.com, outshining the likes of Iranian's Tachin and Japanese Nabemono.
On the website, Sarawak Laksa was rated 4.9 out of 5, automatically placing itself on top of the food chain. The website described the noodle dish as a flavorful chicken or shrimp-based broth seasoned with laksa paste, which sometimes includes more than 20 different ingredients. Taste Atlas recommended Auntie Christina's Sarawak Laksa and 7th Mile Kitchen, both located in Petaling Jaya, as a more accessible location for those residing in West Malaysia. While stops like Chong Chun Cafe, Golden Arch and Madam Tang's Signature were recommended for locals in Sarawak. Many crowded the post online expressing their pride in the dish, whilst some stirred a debate. Back in 2015, Laksa Sarawak was crowned as Breakfast of the Gods by the late Anthony Bourdain, who had his fill at Chong Chun Cafe. Another Malaysian entry that made into the list is Asam Laksa, ranked 22.
And now on to world affairs. Today, South Korea recorded its highest daily COVID-19 cases with 2,434 cases. According to the country's health authority, today's tally breaks the previous record set last month as the country struggles with a wave of infection since early July.
Mortality rate and severe cases remain relatively low at 0.82% and 309 cases respectively, due to vaccinations program that prioritize high-risk group such as the elderly. Authorities have advised people returning from this week's 3-day holiday to be tested even for the mildest COVID-19 symptoms before returning to work. According to the country's health deputy minister, Lee Ki-il, the daily caseloads may continue to surge and peak by next week as more people are tested. South Korea's total COVID-19 infections now stands at 295,132, with a total fatality of 2,434.
And one person was killed and at least 12 were injured when a lone gunman opened fire on Thursday, September 23, at a supermarket in suburban Memphis in Tennessee. Police chief then confirmed that the gunman was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
So I got back there and closed the door, and I heard him come to the back. I was like, oh crap, oh crap. And I heard the gunshots again. He came in there where I was, where all the other people were. He shot one in the head. He shot one of my coworkers in the head, and then he shot a customer in the stomach. And my other coworker just got a little cut right above his eye because of the asphalt. And other than that, everybody else was okay.
Police Chief Del Lane said law enforcement officers swarmed to the scene just after the shooting unfolded at around 1:30 p.m. local time at a Kroger grocery store in Collierville, Tennessee, and began helping victims and others found hiding inside the supermarket. The gunman, who was believed to have acted alone, was found dead in his vehicle at a parking lot outside the store. Collierville Police Chief Lane called the gun violence the most horrific event that has occurred in Collierville history. The town is located about 50 kilometers east of Memphis in southwestern Tennessee. No immediate explanation for a possible motive was offered by authorities.
And that concludes TVS Nightline for tonight. And as always, thank you for tuning in to your local news tonight. Here with me, Shosha Marato, and I'll see you next time. Have a good weekend.